This video, No Child Left Behind Assessment Accountability Requirements, is intended to be a training or professional development seminar for new teachers and administrators who are new to giving the Kansas state assessments for USD 457 in Garden City. This video is intended to meet the requirements of the Interstate School Leaders Licensure Consortium, ISLC, standards number 2, which calls on administrators to advocate, nurture, and sustain a school culture of student learning and staff professional growth in terms of measurement and evaluation of assessment strategies. But also standard 6, which calls on administrators to understand and respond to legal and cultural contexts of the school environment, including the law as it's related to education and schooling. The learning objectives for this training seminar through the use of this video is that the learner will become more familiar with the assessment requirements of the No Child Left Behind legislation of 2001, and the learner will become more familiar with the types of assessments used to measure AYP in Kansas and the consequences of not meeting AYP targets. The No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 was a landmark legislation. It was a major expansion of the federal role in education. It required annual assessment, established a timeline for achievement of goals related to these assessments, and specified consequences for failure to meet those goals. It resulted in the measurement and reporting of something called adequate yearly progress, AYP, towards assessment goals, and resulted in the enhanced use of standardized tests to measure school accountability. The specific assessment requirements of the NCLB legislation were that assessments had to be in place in each state by the 2005-2006 school year. Reading and math assessments had to be administered in each grade, grade 3 through 8 in high school. Science assessments at least once in each of the grade spans, 3rd through 5th grade, 6th through 9th grade, and then once in high school. And states also had to assess English language proficiency of all students who were identified as limited English proficient. Those assessments had to include oral language, reading, and writing components. Assessment of other content that happens in the states was not really mandated by NCLB legislation. It's just up to the states as far as what other types of assessments they want to administer. Some more specifics as far as assessments go with the NCLB legislation is that states had to develop a consistent set of learning objectives to be measured by those assessments, our current state standards, and our assessed indicators that we've become so familiar with in our testing and in our teaching curriculum. Each state got to define what they called proficiency on these assessments, and so you'll see that throughout the 50 states the assessments look different and they have a little bit different, standard as far as what is proficient in one place or another. At least 95% of the students in all schools and districts have to be tested, including all disaggregated subgroups. States also in their testing have to provide a reasonable accommodation for students with special needs or limited English proficiency. It's up to each state to define what's a reasonable accommodation. And students will be assessed in English if they have been enrolled in U.S. schools for more than 3 consecutive years. Along with these specific testing components that we have to meet as far as making our federal auditors happy, there is also some requirements built into the NCLB law as far as data reporting. Data must be reported disaggregated by demographic groups, including the following: economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, students in ELL program, and most major racial and ethnic groups. We also must make parents aware of how their students scored on state assessments, and the states will report the scores and AYP status of buildings and districts to the media. So then what does that look like in Kansas? Well, so what do our state assessments look like in Kansas? Well, for reading, our assessments are given in grades 3 through 8 and then in 11th grade. They are multiple choice. The assessments range from 54 to 84 questions and cover approximately 10 to 16 indicators from our curriculum depending on grade level. High school students may take the test twice before the spring of their 11th grade year. For the most part, they take it when they are a sophomore, a 10th grader, and if they don't pass, they get a second chance to take the assessment as an 11th grader. In the area of reading, here are the yearly targets that we must meet. You can see in 2012, the next testing cycle, next spring, our K through 8 buildings will be required to have 91.9% of our students testing proficient. And as a district and at the high school, 9 through 12, we must meet 90.7 as our benchmark target for reading. In math, the assessments look pretty similar. Grades 3 through 8 and 11th grade, multiple choice. Assessments ranging from 52 to 86 questions and covering from 12 to 15 indicators depending on the grade level from our curriculum. High school students once again may take the test twice before the spring of their 11th grade year. Here are the AYP targets in math. This next testing cycle, spring 2012, 91.1 is our K-8 target, 88.2 is our high school and district target. Other subjects that we test in Kansas: science, every year, grades 4, 7, and then 11th graders. Social studies, every other year in grades 6, 8, and 11. And writing alternates with social studies for grades 5, 8, and 11. This coming year, 2011-2012 school year, we will be administering the social studies assessment in Kansas. We also give the KELPA assessment, Kansas English Language Proficiency Assessment, to all identified ELL students in grades K through 12. In Kansas, we administer state assessments to all students, even those with special needs. We give a couple of different types that I'll describe here on this slide. At least 95% of students must participate in our state assessments according to No Child Left Behind legislations. So our two alternate versions of our state assessments are the CAM, the Kansas Assessments of Multiple Measures. 2% of our testing population may take this assessment and have their passing scores count for AYP. We also administer what we call an alternate assessment. That is for students with very severe educational needs. Only 1% of our total testing population may take this assessment and have passing scores count for AYP. After we take our state assessments and we get our scores, then comes either the penalty phase or the celebration phase. There are several penalties for buildings not making AYP targets, and those penalties become more severe each year that the school fails to meet targets. This flow chart identifies from top to bottom the stages as far as penalties go for buildings not making AYP targets. The first year a building doesn't make targets, they're identified as an on-watch building. From then on, the second year, they become an on-improvement building. The third consecutive year of not making targets in the same subject, the school has to offer additional tutoring for students enrolled in that school. We call those supplemental services. From then on, the building can be placed on corrective action if they're still not making targets, and that corrective action can take a number of different forms depending on what the State Department chooses. The building can be restructured where teachers and administrators are replaced. We can continue to offer supplemental tutoring services, and schools can have students in the schools can have school choice. Schools have to offer their students the right to attend other schools in the district, and we'll have to provide transportation for them to attend those other schools. The penalties for districts not making AYP targets are similar. The first year that you miss AYP targets, you're placed on watch. The second year on improvement, and then from then on you're placed on corrective action if you're still, over a period of time, not making targets. And that corrective action can have some of the similar consequences that a building had. Your district can be restructured. The state can mandate curriculum revision for your district. The state will also place you into what they call the Kansas Learning Network, a consortium of other districts who are having a similar difficult time making AYP targets, having outside consultants come in and evaluate your district top to bottom and make suggestions about improvements that you could make as a part of the Kansas Learning Network. Right now, our district is in the corrective action phase. We are restructuring our curriculum, and we are a part of the Kansas Learning Network with a regular visit from our consultant. To recap our learning objectives, I hope that this short presentation has helped you learn more about the assessment requirements of the NCLB legislation of 2001, and I hope it's helped you become more familiar with the types of assessments that we use to measure AYP in Kansas and the consequences that we face for not meeting those AYP targets. Once again, I hope this has helped you understand a little bit more about how we assess in Kansas and why we assess certain content areas, and I hope it's been worth your while.